Ladies and gentlemen, as a strong supporter of radio future and connected platforms, Juan has spent the last 14 plus years working with the broadcasters on the adoption of technology and advancing the future of radio's presence in the vehicle. Juan has worked with digital radio broadcast, automotive, connected platforms, and computer vision technologies. Juan's passion for radio began at WXTU-FM and continues to this day with stops along the way with WIHT-FM, WMZQ-FM, and WASH-FM in Washington, D.C. Throughout his tenure with XPeri, Juan has advocated to the broadcasters to utilize the technology that advances the listening experience. His work has helped stations around the world to improve their in-vehicle mobile connected devices and their metadata delivery, ensuring that the competitive listener and listening experience in the challenge emphasize in the ecosystems. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Juan Galdamez.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it, buddy. Yeah. How's everybody? Is it better? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Still good? Just a second. It's probably better too because I'm losing my voice, so apologies. As Jim mentioned, I'm Juan. I'm with XPeri. Today we're going to talk a bit about HD radio. So we'll give a quick update. We're approaching 10 years here in Canada with the launch or the first stations going on board within HD radio. So we'll take a look at kind of the quick timeline of what's been going on. We'll take a look at the status of HD radio from automotive perspective and take a look at how it's appearing in the cars today. And then hopefully we'll have enough time allotted to talk a little bit about AutoStage as well. I'll throw that in at the end. I know we get a lot of questions about that. Have a lot of groups in here that we're already working with, and just in general, there's a lot of momentum around what we're doing in this space. And so it's all going to be focused around the car. So with that, so let me just get this just in case. So this is kind of the kickoff or the start of HD radio here in Canada. The first station went on board in 2013, so we're coming up on, apologies, 11 years with CGSA. Shortly after that, in October of 14, the CRTC started evaluating HD radio and started introducing the framework for the adoption of HD radio in Canada. And then as we get into the end of 2015, that's when we really started to ramp up with stations on board in Canada. So by the end of the year, we had a total of 7 stations in Canada across the country, adding 6 in 2015. I forgot to also mention, if anybody has any questions along the way, please stop me. Let's have a conversation versus looking at slides and running through everything. Moving on to 2019, in response to ISED's request, the CRC issued a technical report on the compatibility of HD radio and further reviewing of it. And then in 2023, the CRTC obviously announced their 2-year suspension, so that hits a little bit of a delay for the rollout of HD radio as well in Canada. But as Kirk mentioned and touched on it probably a little bit further in detail, in May of this year, ISED updated their policies on HD radio, and from a technical perspective has advanced the rollout and adoption of HD radio. So that's a big step forward for HD radio here in Canada. We're very excited about that progress for HD radio. Any questions in general? Timeline's off? No? Overall, this is so bad. Apologies, everybody. Overall, we're in about 48 stations around the country, covering 19 markets. There we go. That's a little bit better. This is my 3rd event this week, so my voice is a little shot. So today we're at 48 stations around the country, delivering an additional 51 HD2, HD3 and HD4 stations, bringing the content choice available to listeners in Canada to 99 digital broadcast channels. And I think one of the biggest updates to look at this, aside from kind of the policies and regulatory stuff, we looked at the number of vehicle sales in Canada, and we looked at our numbers. At the end of 2023, 47% of the new cars sold in Canada had HD radio equipped. So we're approaching every other new car sold in Canada, and I would fully expect this year to cross that mark of over 50% of the new cars sold in 2024 will have HD radio pre-installed as a factory solution. Yeah.
So with that, do you have a sense of how many total vehicles, like what percentage penetration there might be on the road?
Yeah, so we are, I think it's this one right here. So we're estimating about 6 million cars, over 6 million cars on the road in Canada since we've rolled out.
More than 25%.
That I don't know. That's a good point, actually. I should find out how many cars are on the road in Canada.
I think there's somewhere between 20 and 25 million.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and that number is honestly probably pretty conservative. So it's probably a bit more. So pretty much any of the vehicles, so in the US, we're about 70%, I shouldn't say 70, about 65% of new cars sold in 2023 had HD radio. And HD radio in Canada from a vehicle perspective and the technology offering are pretty much in line. So any vehicle shipping in Canada or in the US is pretty much carrying the same tech in Canada. So the adoption rate is higher for the automotive side. Over 30 brands, every major brand in Canada is shipping a vehicle with HD here in the country. It obviously varies. I was talking to somebody yesterday, there was a request about, is there a list of all the vehicles with HD? You might be surprised, but it is super challenging to generate that list. It's depending on the brand, depending on the trim level, depending on the model. Some brands could literally be 50 different options of radios potentially where it's at, and that's just one brand. So it's a very challenging thing for us to maintain. But what I would say is, we're standard on Toyota, we're standard on Subaru, a lot of the larger brands we've become standard on, and we're continuously pushing on the automotive side for the adoption of HD radio, and just the continued rollout from the automotive perspective. The only cars I didn't put on here are the luxury ones, Ferrari and Bugatti. So if somebody's counting the logos, that's why it's off. But all the major, high-end brands that I don't drive are including HD as well. And I think we could. Please. Like I said, I'd rather have a conversation.
Do you have a sense of whether HD radio might actually be embedded in some of those models that are not offering it, but just the receiver design includes the ability to light it up if they want?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I don't believe that's the case because I think it's a completely different chipset, right? So the chipset, like the analog versus the HD, would be different chipsets. So I would think the short answer is probably no. I do know there have been discussions from the OEMs around a global chipset for radio, DAB, analog, and HD. So a consolidation on that front. I don't know of one that's doing it yet, but I know that there are some that are actively pursuing that. I know there's some chip suppliers who are working on that, where they could just purchase one chipset, implement that globally for all of radio. So,
Do you have an estimate cost of what each vehicle manufacturer cost is to include HD radio in a vehicle?
I think it varies, right? So we don't know for sure because there's the cost of like the whole chipset and the IP and all of us, all the XPeri side, which isn't. I shouldn't say it's minimal because it's a few dollars per car roughly for HD, but then there's the whole back end work that has to go on the engineering side from the automotive perspective. So their costs on that end, we don't really have insight into like how big their engineering teams are that are testing, that are doing everything. So we don't really know that. But HD is a cost to the OEM, right? We'll get this a lot when they talk about SiriusXM, right? SiriusXM is on pretty much every car. But their model is very different. They're paying OEMs to be on there, whereas our solution, broadcast radio, is a cost for them. So it's a very different setup for them. It's harder for us to get in. But again, we've had significant progress. I mean, like I said, 65, I think we'll be pretty close to 70% of the new cars in the US this year will have HD radio. And there is, we're doing a lot of efforts around educating the OEMs to try to help continue that investment in HD radio and just period in general for radio. We're doing, I started this program where we're taking automotive engineers and we're taking them behind the scenes and taking them to radio stations. So I've done a few of these tours already and I've got 2 more coming up. But we've done some for Toyota. So we go to Dallas and we take the RF engineer, the audio engineer, the senior guy who's making decisions. So it's all the guys and girls who are touching radio when it comes to Toyota. And we take them on a tour of stations and we talk about radio. We talk about not just HD radio, we talk about broadcast radio. We talk about the strategy to getting songs on the radio. We talk about the engineering that goes on behind the scenes. We take a look at the rack room. We look at studios, take it behind a board. We talk about the sales process. We talk about the community engagement. We talk about everything. We talk about it not just at that local level in Dallas, at that specific group, but we talk about it from a major group all the way down to a small independent to community radio. And the hope of that is that educates them, because a lot of these people don't listen to the radio. You've got some of these guys and girls are 24, 25. They just graduated college and they're one of the lead engineers at Toyota who's touching, radio. And sometimes they don't listen to radio, and so they don't really know radio. They kind of just assumed it's putting an iPod on a shuffle, right, mode, and that's just how it is, right? But they don't realize the logic and the strategy that goes behind the music selection and all of that. So we've been doing that for a little bit. We've done 2 for Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and I've got BMW and a very senior executive group at Nissan coming up in the next few months. So we're pushing heavy on HD radio, and so we're doing everything we can, and there's still, trust me, plenty of room to grow, there's no question, and I can tell you, our management is like, let's do that, because that's where the revenue is at for us, right? Getting this in the automotive side. So we're working towards it, but yeah, it varies in terms of the cost. So this is in a vehicle. So I'll share some images of HD radio in vehicles today. So this is a Kia. This was one of my Ubers recently, earlier this year. I had an Uber and it had HD. I believe it was a Kia radio. To Kirk's point earlier, right? So obviously digital AM, FM, multicast channel, all of that sort of thing. But the other thing to make sure that stations are participating in is the artist experience feature. Station logos, album art, like Kirk mentioned earlier, metadata, that's becoming a massive part, or monetization of the metadata. It's becoming a massive, massive thing, at least in the States, and I know stations here in Canada are starting to look at it. But monetizing RDS, monetizing that image, an advertiser, showing the advertiser logo, customizing the text for that. There are stations making significant money doing that. And definitely something to look at if you're broadcasting in HD, to make sure you participate in that. Also recently in Vancouver, this is another example here. This was Infinity Nissan radio. But again, here's the artist experience. This is the wrong button, but you've got the artist experience with the station logos, the HD2s as well, having the station logos. The content that we're seeing in Canada varies. A lot of AM, repeating the AM, putting the AM signal on the HD2, HD3, and multi-language content on HD2s, 3s, and 4s. Artist experiences, that feature has been out for a while, and it's been on Toyotas for a very long time and a lot of other brands, but if there's an HD radio implementation coming out now, it's got imagery. So definitely make sure if you're broadcasting in HD that you're participating in that and at least sending the logo. It doesn't have to be dynamic, it can just be the logo, but make sure you're at least doing that if you're broadcasting with HD. And then I think this might be my last one on the HD3 for, let's see here. We got a few more, so here are a few more images too, but again, I think you all get the idea here. The images, station logos, artist images, programming logos, the Juan Morning Show, putting an image, that sort of thing up there. So what's next for us? Regulatory side, obviously we have to now get through the official adoption with the CRTC, so we'll be working with the regulatory groups to kind of continue further that rollout of HD radio and move that to 100% or full adoption of the HD radio solution here in Canada. To what we were talking about earlier, continued growth on the OEM side. So our sales team is aggressively pushing on the automotive side to continue the rollout of HD radio, adding that solution into the vehicles, driving that penetration of HD radio further down to lower models or the high end, whichever, depending on the brand, and then even further down into within those models, the lower tiered radios when it makes sense. And it's not that they're all just in the higher tier radios, it depends on the brand, but some brands have structured radios, so. But we're pushing pretty aggressively on that. And I think there's a big project coming out with one of the big threes that hopefully will be a really big announcement. Fingers crossed that comes through. Artist experience feature, as I mentioned earlier, seeing the images, and again, to just echo again for what Kirk was saying about the monetization of those images. I have heard numbers, and it's not just the large groups, the very small independents, mid-sized groups are making real money, hundreds of thousands of dollars by just monetizing the logo and doing the RDS. Stations all over the US are actively now doing this, even if it's just for RDS, right? But doing this RDS, doing the image for client logos, things like that, there's a lot of money being made right now around that. And so I would encourage stations that are broadcasting in HD to ensure that you're sending your logo. I believe you can do it in a lot of the default in the importers or the transmitters for just the station logo. So you don't have to buy a solution to do just the station logo. You can do it with what you already have. But to get more dynamic, you will need like a middleware solution to do the dynamic artwork, show logos, things like that. But definitely something to take advantage of. And as I mentioned, the artist experience feature in Canada, with the radios coming out, all the new HD radios pretty much all have it. I don't know of a recent launch of an HD radio in a car that does not have artist experience. So that 47% of cars sold last year, I'm sure that 100% of them all had the ability to do artwork. So, yeah.
What are some suggestions of middleware companies?
So the big one is Q in the US. They're the largest one, right? QUU, we do have a partnership with them and help with them. There's TRE, I know has done that for years. We have a solution focused really around non-commercial radio. But, so there are a few solutions out there. And I think there's some other groups looking at delivering something. I don't know if they're here now. I think RCS might have something too. Talk to Nate, but I don't know where they're at with that, but I'm pretty sure there's something there too. And then one of the other big updates as well is our learning platform. So we recently, one of the issues that we've heard for years, I've heard it for years, I know our engineering team has heard it for years, is, and for those of you who know Donna, she's been working on this for us. And this is our, we call it our, bear with me one second, let me just clear it out. I'm sorry about this, y'all. All right, this is our, we call it our Technology Learning Center. So we have documented everything about HD radio and the implementation. We have FAQs, everything is documented, quick start guides, videos, white papers, anything technical on HD radio, on the implementation of it. It's all there. If you're a licensee, it is 100% free to get access to the content. If there's content on there that you're not seeing that's helpful, let us know, and we'll continue to kind of add content and provide those resources. So definitely something as well to take a look at. I believe also if you're not a licensee, I believe you can get access to most of the documentation in there. If you're thinking about converting to HD and you want to look at some guides on, different, thoughts of what to do or configurations, I believe that documentation is there too. So I don't think it's just for licensees. I think the vast majority of it is, but I think there's an element there if you're not a licensee and considering it, you've got documentation there. But a lot of work's gone into that, and as I said, I would encourage everybody to take a second to look at that if you can. So with that, I think we're going to move into, so auto stage. So we've been working on HD Radio for over 20 years. HD Radio is very focused on the automotive side, making sure that we grow that. If you haven't heard of DTS Auto Stage, we get a lot of questions about this right now. We spent a lot of time working through this, and our customers, the automakers, a few years ago, actually at this point, maybe 7 years ago, started asking for more. Started asking us, what else can radio do? We've got HD Radio. HD Radio can do the imagery and things like that, but what else can we do for radio? And our team started looking at this and realizing connectivity is coming into the vehicle. We started exploring it more, and we rolled out DTS Auto Stage, which is our hybrid radio service for automotive. And we launched it in 2020 with Mercedes. And the whole goal of this is to use broadcast for audio delivery, but use the internet connection over the top to enhance the experience, right? This room knows broadcast is the most effective way to reach the masses with audio content, right? Radio is the most efficient, most proven solution or technology to deliver that content to a market. And so let's maximize that and utilize that, and then let's use the internet connection to kind of come over the top and do more. There's a level of metrics as well on this. I'll show, I think it's this one actually, yeah. So to date, these are the brands that have launched with AutoStage here in Canada. We just added BMW and Mini. So BMW and Mini are in the process of rolling it out. They have told us they've issued over-the-air updates. We don't know yet to what vehicles and those elements, but it's out. They've told us it's out, and I haven't had a chance to stop by a BMW dealership here in Toronto yet, but you should be able to see it if you get into there. But any of the other brands, if you go, you'll be able to see a vehicle with DTS Auto Stage there. So there's a lot of growth since 2020 when we launched with Mercedes. And I think one of the things that makes us really well positioned for this is the success that we've had with HD Radio. Our teams have been working with the automotive space for over 20 years on radio technology. Our guys who call on GM, Toyota, we know all of the players when it comes to radio, right? We know the teams, we know how they think, we know their process. We understand what's going on when they're thinking about radio technology in these different brands. And so the conversation about HD Radio, it's been great and easy to kind of have that conversation about HD Radio, but also continue the conversation of auto stage and a hybrid approach and taking it even further with it. So it's really helped us to be well positioned for the rollout of auto stage across the world. One of the great things too, being neighbors, for Canada and US, is Canada and US are the two biggest countries with hybrid solutions out there in the world. You have other solutions, there's some European solutions, very limited, I think, in terms of what they offer, in terms of the vehicles that are out there. But all of these brands are shipping here in Canada and the US, whereas some of these brands with us are only shipping, Mercedes and Tesla are global, they're in like 195 countries, but the rest of the brands are all focused on US and Canada. So from a volume perspective of hybrid radios, Canada and US are probably leading the number of vehicles on the road with a hybrid solution out there. So there are a ton of hybrid radios out there from AutoStage, so highly encourage them. We'll take a look at this in a second too. This is what it looks like. I'm going to breeze through some of these pictures as well. Some of you all may have seen these already. This is a Mercedes. This is a Vancouver station right here where you've got all the station logos. Obviously, HD radio is the traditional way to send the logo to the vehicle, but that IP connection is where we fill in the gap for the analog station. So being able to use that IP connection so that every station is represented on the dash with a visual presentation for the logo. This carousel you just cycle through and you can see logos. Also now playing artwork, so when you're listening to a music piece, you can see, the artist, the album art, artist image, that sort of thing. We'll get to a point, and you can do this with HD. For talk programming, doing show logos, doing, announcer images, things like that, where you'll be able to show that as well, if stations are sending that and getting that through. Yeah, please, go ahead, Dennis.
Do most of the vehicles have their own broadband included service, or you connect to a phone? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, so the internet connection comes from the car, so there's a modem embedded in the vehicle. So the way the industry is moving is several years ago, you had to have a separate, Rogers or Bell data connection to your car, right? And you might be a Rogers customer, but Mercedes chose Bell, so you have to have that, right? It wasn't really working. So what they're doing now is Mercedes is Mercedes Me. You buy the car, and for a year or 2 years comes like the Mercedes Me package. In that is the data connection, but it's also more. You can control your car from your phone. You've got all these services and things like that. So that's where it's going. Hyundai is Hyundai BlueLink, Kia Connect, BMW, My BMW, I think, is the BMW app. So that's where it's going. So the connection is baked in there. But one of the great things about what we're doing with AutoStage is we're not encouraging listeners to go to the AutoStage app. They're going to AM and FM radio, and if the connection is there, the data populates. If the connection is not there, the radio just works the normal way an AM or FM radio would work, or an HD radio would work. So we're not trying to change your behavior. We're just making the content available when the connection's there.
When the subscription runs out,
Yeah.
will the service, will some provider or some manufacturer still continue to provide data to the radio?
For AutoStage?
Yeah.
No, the connection has to be live. So it varies. So what they're doing is, so the OEMs are trying to find recurring revenue, like everybody else is, right? And so they're all trying to figure out this subscription-based revenue. And as I said, they're kind of adding features on top of it. So I have a Hyundai, and I have a BlueLink. It's free for 3 years, although the sales guy told me lifetime, but I know it's only 3 years, so I won't fight him on it. But it's free for 3 years, and I can turn on the heat. I can see where my car is at wherever I want. So there's all these other features that are included in that. And the expectation is that you'd continue that. And they'll continue to add features and services to kind of entice you to do that. It all follows the Tesla model. OEMs used to think nobody would subscribe for anything for Tesla or for your vehicle, but Tesla has proven them wrong, right? I mean, Tesla owners subscribe regularly for things. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, why would most consumers, never mind Tesla owners,
Yeah.
be okay with having two, essentially network subscriptions after that 3-year period?
Well, they wouldn't. You would have to resubscribe to BlueLink or Mercedes Me, so you wouldn't have.
But
Yeah.
I mean, if everybody's already got a smartphone,
Yeah.
with,
But again, it's not just for the data connection. The data connection is like one of many things in that subscription. Again, if I let the 3 years of BlueLink drop, I can't turn on the heat from my phone, right? I have to go into my car, turn the car on, and turn the heat on, right? It's things like that. It's those sorts of things. So they're adding more and more to it to entice you to subscribe. So you're not necessarily saying like, okay, well, I'll subscribe, but I only want this piece and that piece. You're subscribing to the whole thing. That's like this whole suite and bundle of features that, in theory, you can't live without. And personally, I feel like I can't live without now that I have it. So I'll probably be a subscriber for life.
Question?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
So, if I'm not correct, for the HD, I believe the broadcasters has to provide those HD1, HD2.
Yeah.
But for your data casting, but you can basically separate and
Yeah.
you can
Sorry.
basically separate your broadcasting and give the auto stage by some other people as well.
So you're saying with the multicast?
Okay, for the HD
Yeah.
portion.
Yeah.
So the radio, the second program, third program, or whatever data need to be come from a radio station.
HD2, yeah, with HD2, HD3.
But for this auto stage, it need not to be. So that means
No,
data
it has to be.
casting can
No,
be.
It has to be. It's all broadcast. Has to be an HD2, HD3, analog,
Yeah.
HD1.
Yeah, that is correct. But I'm wondering when you go for the DTS auto
Oh, do you have to be HD to participate?
yes.
No.
Yes, that's what I'm
100%.
trying to say. So it's a basically added on it, but that particular service can be done by someone else on your service.
Yeah. I mean, you can do this in parallel with HD, and as you should, because there's various levels of what the cars have. But yeah, you don't have to be licensed for HD to have it. It's analog. I mean, arguably, I would almost say even further. If you're analog, you have to do it, or I shouldn't say you should do it, because it's one of the only ways, right? HD radio is also still critical because HD radio, we've got over 6 million cars on the road in Canada. that have HD radio, right? And so that experience that your listeners see in the car can be dramatically different if you're HD and you're broadcasting artwork, station logos, and things like that. So HD radio is still a very critical part. And then also, all these radios are HD. So if the user doesn't subscribe, or after the trial period's done, the only way that your station could look better in the car is HD radio. So I think they go hand in hand, and you should do it. And AutoStage is completely free to participate. So there is no cost to participate. I'm going to breeze through this, and we have a few more minutes. This is the Hyundai Kia experience. So you've got now playing information, but I think what's different about this one is on the left side of here, you see the screen that has station slogans. So they've integrated the station slogans for all of the stations. When you go through this list, you have this robust list of all the logos, all the station names, and all of the slogans for each station. So it gives that listener or that user the ability to maybe discover more or reinforce, give you a chance to reinforce your branding and things like that for that station. So definitely a cool radio. It's very similar in the Kia. Kia and Hyundais are very similar. Did I lose one? Hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay. I thought I lost one. Usually I go to a different one. But this as well as the Lincoln. So these two stations are analog. This is an analog 104.3 FM showing the Rihanna artwork. And then you've got 105.9 showing the talk station logo, right? So analog radio showing up like this is pretty cool. Again, broadcast for audio, IP for the logos and the images, right? So we're still using that service. The other thing to highlight too, and I took this out because it was going to be short on time, but we also added other services. So in Mercedes, you have broadcast to stream transition. So drive your vehicle, you get to the edge of broadcast coverage, it will let you switch over to the stream, and the user can continue listening to the station. When they're back in broadcast coverage, you'd be able to consume the broadcast signal of the station. This is the other in the Hyundai family. This is the Genesis. This is a brand new radio, and it's most likely on a lot here in Canada, but it should be any day now. I was able to find one randomly on a trip. This is the new Genesis. It's a 2025 GV80. It's like a 27-inch LED panel. It's pretty cool. But again, being able to fill this screen, fill it with content, fill it with radio content, make radio look great, and make it look vibrant and exciting and engaging on there, right? Versus just having a frequency or call letters just showing up, but filling that screen up with those logos. And you'll see here the first 4 stations right there are all analog, but they look just as great as the HD station that's in there too. The difference too with HD, I guess, to reinforce this, with HD, if you're sending artist experience, you're sending artwork, you're doing all of the monetization piece, all of that carries through. You take control over it, right? The internet connection is to fill the gaps when there's not data, right? When we're not getting data from broadcast, the IP comes in over the top. But for the HD stations, you're doing everything. It all takes the broadcast. Broadcast is top priority in AutoStage. But when we're not getting broadcast equipment or broadcast data, we switch it. We fill it in with IP. And then this is AM radio, which is, I think, the coolest AM radio I've ever seen. I think it's a great example of how using that IP connection can really change the experience for radio, right? To have AM radio look this, I think exciting and vibrant, and just to fill it and make it an interesting experience, I think will hopefully help keep listeners and engage listeners over time. And again, this vehicle is here, it should be shipping in Canada. I just don't know if it's out in lots yet. That's the only thing. It should be any day now if it's not. Yeah,
one of
correct.
the things related to the Hyundai family, like Genesis, Hyundai, and Kia,
Yeah.
that in the U.S. they announced, and it is available, that there's a lot of backward compatibility that you can update the receiver in the car for certain models.
Yep.
And I've been trying to find out how to do that, or is it available in Canada?
Yeah, so
And I haven't been able to.
yeah. Let me see. So the question is around backward compatibility. So Mercedes has to be a brand new vehicle. This actually, Genesis, Hyundai, and Kia all were backwards compatible. They did over-the-air updates and affected as old as 2016 model year cars. So cars that were already on the road had the opportunity to get the update and start receiving DTS AutoStage. Now, it wasn't every 2016 Hyundai and Kia. it's a very, to this point of tracking the radios, it's a very like nuanced list. Like when you look at it, you'll get to see, like you'll see, yeah, how many variables there are within it. Because like even like, my wife had a 16 Sonata, but it was a different trim level of Sonata that got it, so hers didn't get it. So I can try to find that list. I know there was a list at one point that Hyundai had released.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't seem to be rolled out in Canada yet.
It is. We're seeing data, and I'll show you in a second data. We're seeing Hyundai data coming
Well,
through.
I know it's available on new vehicles, because I went to a dealer and.
You're saying like older.
Of the,
Yeah.
the
Let me.
older vehicles, yeah.
Okay. Let me see what I can find out. But we've been told it's a North America thing, and soon after they did it, we were seeing vehicles coming up. So, as I said, it is a very nuanced list, right? I mean, there aren't many 2016s that could do it. It gets more and more as you get newer, but I can see if I can help find it. I know there was a list at one point that they released. It was on a navigation update, and that navigation update had a list that was available, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it varied from there, but I can look into it. We'll send it to you. Oh, sorry about that. I thought I put do not disturb. I think I can do it here.
You don't want to do your conference call live?
Heck no, I'd rather be here. I don't want to do that call. It is on. This is Tesla. I'm going to breeze through. We got a few more minutes, and there's a bulkier piece I think that will hopefully generate more questions. No pressure. This is the Tesla radio. So as I mentioned, I showed you the whole breadth of radios. This is my Uber. If you want to get a chance to check it out, call an Uber, make it an electric car. 8 out of 10 times it's a Tesla, and you get a chance to see it. It's in every Tesla around the world. And if you're familiar with the radio, prior to the launch, frequency call letters. That's all that it would show. After auto stage integration, they started adding logos to the radio in the experience there. And obviously it has HD radio as well. And actually, this one's actually a little bit different. They actually didn't implement the artist experience feature, so I guess kind of counters my previous point of any new cars. This is the only one, I guess, that I know of that wouldn't be doing artist experience. So all of the logos come from auto stage. So for God only knows what reason they wouldn't do artist experience, but they're filling it with auto stage. So still a win. You get station logos. But all right, so metrics and insights. So analog radio, HD radio, one directional. Right? Take a signal, you send it out, receiver receives it, that's it. IP connection is two-way, and it's talking back to us now. So now that we've paired broadcast with IP, we're actually able to now tell stations how many times your station was tuned to, how long they were listening for, and this is all for over-the-air broadcast radio, all coming from the car. Has nothing to do with your streams. It is all AM, FM, HD listening inside of the vehicle. This is all data as of Wednesday. Last night I pulled Wednesday's data. So this is data for a station in Ottawa. So this is all real data coming through. As you can see, we're already getting data across Canada. I've yet to see a market in Canada that we don't see any kind of data available. Obviously it varies, but there are cars all over the country and already feeding in this data. And getting access to the data is completely free. So it's free to participate, it's free to get access to the metrics, so I'd highly encourage you to get set up with it. We can also show you listening patterns. What did listening look like throughout the day? Where was the peak of listening? Where did your listening tail off? When did it start? That sort of thing. You can really start to see with this, and I'm seeing this with all the groups I meet with now, you can really start to see with the tentpole events, if you've got artist takeover, you're carrying a sports game, you can start to see listening reflected in a lot of that. So it's really interesting to start to see that. You can see, the first hour of the game or the first half hour of the game, your listening spikes, and then it really starts to trickle off at a certain point during the game. So you're really able to start seeing a lot of these interesting things coming from these metrics in this day part activity. Yep, go ahead.
So are you getting this data from cars that are not subscribing as well?
No. So it's all cars. So it's still a subset of cars on the road because it's only the cars equipped with DTS Auto Stage, which include the Hyundais, the Kias, the Genesis, the Mercedes, the Teslas, the Lincoln, Nissan, and now the new BMWs and Minis that will be added to the list So as those services get activated, it would be feeding into the metrics. So when the receiver is saying, hey, I'm listening to station X, we know that that's happening. And so we're able to kind of report that.
All right, so it's only the times when the driver or the owner of the vehicle subscribes to this.
Well, you're not really subscribing to AutoStage, right? It's just when the data connection is there, right?
Yeah.
The data connection's coming from like something else within the car, right? So like you buy a new Hyundai, it's free for 3 years, right? So you're gonna have the service for 3 years
So
with no
only
cost.
the ones that subscribe to that, though. It's not like all cars that are new are pushing this data.
Correct.
Okay.
You have to have DTS AutoStage active. The service has to be active to do it. But you're not like subscribing to AutoStage.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Go
So,
ahead.
Juan,
Yeah.
what's the benefit to XPeri of having stations
Yeah.
subscribe to get this data for free?
Yeah, why is it
Right.
free? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, not why is it free, just what's the benefit to you?
So the benefit is that we get more and more stations to participate, right? So this comes up a lot because,
Why is that important? You're populating the metadata anyway.
yeah. So it improves the quality of the metadata that we have. So when we got to launch with Mercedes, we probably have metadata for every station here already, right? To get to launch with Mercedes, we had to aggregate it on our own. We didn't have time to work with the industry to get everybody directly involved. So we used open source solutions, we used different APIs, our own scraping. We did whatever we could to compile this list. What we found through that process, though, is these third parties are not right. They're not always right. There are a lot of inconsistencies. And the truest way to know what's happening at a station is the station. Like if you don't work with the station, like it's kind of a crapshoot if the data is right. So the intention is let's bring stations on board, let's give them access to the metrics that are available. That then improves the quality of what we deliver to the automotive space, making our solution competitive and more viable, which is where we make our money. So we can sell it to the automotive space.
Okay, I'm still not making the connection because you've got the metrics available from the receivers in the car. You don't need the broadcaster to participate.
What we do for the metrics. The metrics, we have to have a live feed of now playing data.
I see, okay.
In order for a station to view metrics, you have to have your now playing data integrated. That's kind of the heartbeat to metrics,
Got it.
right? That's how we know when the radio is asking us, or we know a change has happened and we're delivering it
Yes.
because an event has changed within the radio. That's how we know that the listening is occurring. So
Thanks.
you can participate without seeing metrics. I mean, honestly, when you sign up, you won't see metrics until we integrate the now playing data. Is that clearer? Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. I wasn't getting all that. We're getting down to time. This is the day part activity. Yeah, it's all over the place. And again, this is all data. This was for Wednesday for this specific station in Ottawa. And then also having heat maps available. The heat maps give you the ability to see where your listeners are when they're tuning into your station, right? So you can zoom in a little bit further. You can start to see, where are the pockets of listening for my stations and where are they at in the market? Where are they tuning into my station? And again, for your over-the-air signal inside of the car. And you can zoom in a little bit more on this. And again, we're working with stations all over. I've yet to see a market in Canada where we don't have any data. So I can assure you there's probably listening going on through AutoStage with some of your stations, and there's data available to you if you want to sign up for the service. And then this one, I don't have it here, but so by participating, your metrics are your metrics. They're private. They're yours. We don't share. They're not competitive. Things like that. So I've learned we have a top charts feature. There's another tab of data, but I've learned when I do that and I show the market, people can deduce who the station is. So I've stopped including that. But top charts is also showing you, from a programming side, the most consumed songs on the radio station during a given week. So being able to show the station, this was the most consumed song in the car. Not song that was played, but that actually had a pair of ears and listened to it for at least 30 seconds. So raising the visibility of what's actually retaining a listener, what songs are actually keeping a listener tuned for greater than 30 seconds inside of the car. So an interesting feature from a programming side there. Any general questions anymore? I know we're a little over, but yeah, please. Yeah.
Just a comment about the overriding focus on car reception. And I'm thinking of the, in the UK experience with DAB, you can walk into a Tesco supermarket and buy a tabletop radio for in-house reception. And there's almost the presumption here that if you're not listening in the car and you're listening in the home, then you must be listening by streaming with Alexa or something. Why isn't there more emphasis by XPeri on in-home reception? Because at the outset of HD radio, your website did list a bunch of products, some of which was available at Best Buy. Now it's all gone.
Yeah, the reality is nobody's buying tabletop radios. I'm assuming it's the same in Canada and US, right? That's the unfortunate truth, right? We work with some of them that want to do it, want to implement it, but there's so few of them there, right? You go to Europe, you go to the UK, radio listening habits are different, right? Consumers there every household tends to have an over-the-air receiver inside of their house, whereas in the States, I'm fairly certain in Canada too, that's not common. So the user habits over there are very different than they are here. And we had a period where we launched our own tabletop radio brand and we were selling it and we stopped doing it. The volumes just aren't there. If people were buying those radios, you would see them in every store. You would see 10, 15 different manufacturers doing it. Unfortunately, the habits are just very different. Radio listening consumption, broadcast radio listening consumption is primarily in the car in North America. So it's just very different. But trust me, we've talked to some tabletop manufacturers about AutoStage and encouraged to integrate and do all of that, but there's so few of them. Sangean is probably the best one out there. And they're great. I know those guys very well, and their products are great. So, but unfortunately, there are just very few out there. Yeah. Trust me, I wish. I mean, it pains me. When I first started at the company, I did a lot of work with the blue shirts at Best Buy, and we did a lot of work to get the radios out there at Best Buy. And now, I mean, to go to Best Buy and try to buy a tabletop radio, not even HD, just buy an AM/FM radio at Best Buy. It's very hard to do. At least in all the ones that I've been around. No. Well, no, because HD is all broadcast. So, and I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
So with respect to your company, so when the broadcasters ask, what is the rating of our station? Do you provide the ratings?
No, we don't do anything. We don't do any kind of reporting. All the metrics are here. The closest to seeing what your station looks like is here. This station reach page. We have gotten a lot of questions about how am I performing against other stations in the market, so we're exploring that. But right now, the best that you get is this portion right here, which shows you the average reach of the market. So what that's showing the station is, in this market, in Ottawa, over a 30-day period, 26% of all radio listening on AutoStage cars was to this station.
But is that one?
So that's about the most competitive rating that you'll see.
Is that one station only?
This is only one station. Well, that metric is the comparison of all radio listening in that market for that one station, right?
One station only,
for
right? One station only.
Correct.
So therefore, if there are 10 stations, you can compare now the metrics of those 10 stations.
No, you have no access to anybody else's metrics. Nobody has access. If your stations are signed up, you have metrics for your stations. You have no visibility into any other station in the market.
But your software can scrape everything, and then they can find all what is being playing.
Well, we could. We would know the metrics for every station.
Advertisements, everything.
We're not there. We're not doing that, and we're not there yet. In the sense of, we never really thought that would be important, but it is. It's a lot of stations have asked us.
Yes.
How do I compare it to other stations? Yeah. Was there one more I thought I saw? Yeah.
Just to clarify the analog FMs for the artist experience.
Yeah.
So if nobody's registered, they don't have an account, you're still doing album art for analog FMs.
Correct.
Based upon
Fingerprinting.
the RDS metadata, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Now, once the broadcaster registers and creates an account, do they have any additional control over what those images look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not for the now playing artwork. Now, if you are analog and you have that metadata and you can send it to us, you have the rights and you can send it, we'll use that. But if you're analog and you're just sending us now playing titles, we would fill it with artwork from fingerprinting and things like that. The things that you do have control over, analog, right? If you're an analog station, and even HD in the portal, you have control over the station logo, slogan, you have of all of the metadata. Once you go in, you get access to your station, you update it. It's Christmas time, we're updating our logo, go in, upload it, hit save, go downstairs to the Tesla and it's fixed.
Okay.
Right? So you have a lot of control in the portal for your data once you've taken control over it. And then that becomes like of record. And kind of like to what I was saying earlier, the reason for that is, with other solutions that are out there and just in general, as we try to sell into automotive to further radio, the more accurate the solution is, the better, right? Nielsen has a service out there called Grace Note. They're like, we're up against them all the time, trying to sell a hybrid solution, where their model is to not work with the industry, right? They're aggregating their own data, and eventually they want to sell it, sell it to everybody. Whereas we are focused on working directly with the industry, because that'll improve.
Be ads, like
We do.
ads
We do no ad insertion or anything like that. Now we are looking at, as we get further down, we are looking at how can we, now that we've paired broadcast and IP, I think in one of my first slides on AutoStage, the goal is to do more for radio. Like let's take that internet connection and do more. There's a lot of work going on right now around could we do geo-targeted ads, ad replacements, right? But that wouldn't be us doing it on our own. That would be doing it
like a campaign that they set up.
in partnership with the industry and stations, where we would, you're within 5 miles of a Tim Hortons, and Tim Hortons has bought a premium campaign from you. And they can, every time that this vehicle is listening to your station in that range, they can then get their Tim Hortons ad, that sort of thing. So.
Okay, you know what, guys? We're going into a coffee break. We're going to have
sorry.
15 minutes. If you guys have any more questions for Juan, you can ask them during the coffee break.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to thank Dielectric and Nautel for the coffee break sponsorship. Juan, on behalf of the CCBE, I want to thank you very much for the paper today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.